So hello, welcome back to Tips with Cliff. This video is going to cover how to do binds to help you in offline practice servers, how to do some basic smokes on Mirage, and also some thoughts behind strat calling or IGLing on Mirage, which also sort of applies to all maps. So to get started, how do I bind a command so that I can have an easy to use command like no clip on a practice server? Well, firstly, you need to enable your console. So to do this, you want to hit escape, click the settings menu, click game, and make sure that enable developer console is set to yes. You can change the binding for the console if you wish, but by default it is the tilde key, which is next to 1. This will open up the console, which is more efficient to use than a GUI or a graphical user interface. So in an offline practice server, which you can just launch in the game, it's literally just a subheading called practice, you just click that. You'll get into a private server where you can practice things all by yourself. When you get into that server with the console, you can type sv_cheats and set it to 1 if it isn't already. I think it might be set to that by default in CS2. But in order to do any of these console commands, you need cheat set to 1. Now this will not get you VAC banned, it's an inbuilt command by Valve to let people practice on offline servers. Now if we want to bind a key, like as I said before, noclip, a useful tool to helping us fly around. The noclip command is just noclip in console, but if we want to bind that to a button so we don't have to retype it every time we want to use it, we would type bind, put the key that we want to use, the one I like to use is V, and then type noclip. And you'll see this yellow script come up, confirming that the bind was successful, and you can now, just pressing one button, noclip, or any other console command that you wish to use, you can also bind to a key if you wish to. Now I will talk about some grenades that you can throw on Mirage to help you on T-side. It's very useful to know these grenades because T-side Mirage can be difficult if you don't have grenades that let you take map control. So we'll start with middle. From a in-game leader perspective, you probably want to be calling mid takes fairly often into Mirage because they allow you to attack the sites from multiple angles. They allow you to attack A from connector, they allow you to take B from short. You can also get a player into this position called ladder room, which is a very sneaky late round position that can be super useful. And if you didn't know, you can also get into window by making this jump, although it will make noise. Or you can have someone boost you here and not make noise. So if there's a window smoke here, as I will show you, and you have better movement than mine, you can easily get into window and take this space with sound. Or if you have a teammate that comes underground, you can boost someone in window if you have these smokes. So the most basic smoke, like the beginner smoke for Mirage, would be what we would call the start smoke. So to throw the start smoke, and again I've specifically changed my crosshair just so it shows up a bit better on YouTube. Jump onto this bin, you put your crosshair on this antenna, hold down mouse 1, release, and this will smoke start. The advantage of this smoke is it lets you cross from top mid to mid boxes. It blocks the line of sight from short, it blocks the line of sight from window, it blocks the line of sight from connector, at least partially. And again, it's super easy to know, so if you're a beginner, this is one smoke you can throw. I'm not going to go over every grenade combination because there are hundreds per map. I want to keep it very simple, just a couple of things for each area of the map that you can learn as a beginner. But a good flash for those that want to start using flashbangs to pair with this smoke. If you're the first person taking out mid, you can bounce this flash off this wall. And the good thing about this flash is it won't blind your teammates that are pushing out mid, but it will blind connector guy. And it will also blind... I don't think it will blind shortcut, excuse me, but it will blind window as well. Yeah. So that's a good flash to throw for the first guy. And if you're the second or third guy, a flash you can throw is just over the boxes here. The good thing about this flash is it won't blind any of your teammates running up, but it will blind people in middle that might be pushing. So there's a beginner smoke and two very easy flashes to throw. Now if you want a better smoke, which is a little harder to throw, but if you go on a practice server, you can very easily get it to be 100% consistent all the time. You can throw a window smoke. Because the disadvantage in a start smoke, whenever you throw a smoke, certain smokes have advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage of a smoke like this is that CTs can push close behind the smoke, and also because window is not smoked, they might go to the left side, and this doesn't block them off completely. So if you envision I had an AWP, which I will show, this smoke lets you cross to the box, but when you're behind the box, the AWPer is still effective. Whereas if we throw the better smoke, it means that the AWPer is not effective at all. So to throw the better smoke, if you want to learn an even better one, although it's a bit trickier, you want to put your crosshair here on this white line here. So you can trace your line across this wall to this corner, and then on the white line to the side of it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hit the D key, which is the move to the right key or strafe to the right key, as we hit the jump key and release. So we're going to hit the D key as we hit the jump key to release. And this will smoke window, which nullifies... Ooh, it won't make your opponent fall for the map, unfortunately, but it will nullify the window guy completely. And then the window guy will have to move if he's effective. As an IGL, worth bearing in mind that this smoke will move the AWPer, so that they will probably take the palace line, or they could go take CT, or they could go help B, or they could possibly move into connector. As an IGL, you always want to be thinking about where the opponents are at all times. It's an IGL top tip. So, beginner smoke, start. If you're a little more up for practicing, then you can do a window smoke. These are the most important smokes on mid. Another smoke you can throw is a connector smoke. So, smoke connector. You want to put your crosshair on this second step. If you see these as a staircase, as I do, this second step. It's a bit difficult to actually see with this crosshair, but on the corner, and it's a jump throw. If you don't know what a jump throw is, you just, as you release the key, I'll show you for HE, as you release the key, you do a jump. This is a really great connector smoke. It completely nullifies the connector guy. They will have to move away. I have seen a lot of players, beginner players, throw bad connector smokes. You might be thinking, okay, well, why don't I just throw the smoke on the fly? Like, why don't I just run up here and throw the smoke like this? Firstly, because it's not a given lineup. I actually hit a perfect con smoke there, so that's really annoying for the purpose of the tutorial. But there's a second reason, even if you can do perfect con smokes on the run, why this is not a good idea, which is obviously you never ever want to have grenades out when you could be peeked by an opponent. If you're dying a lot because you feel like you have a grenade out, that's an indicator that you don't have the awareness to know when you should be using a grenade and when you shouldn't. The reason that we have set grenades in Counter-Strike is that we can throw them safely without the opponent killing us. But most like on the run con smokes are stuff like this. And while this might cover an angle, or even a con smoke like this, why this might cover an angle, it can have glaring problems, right? If I'm an AWPer, I can peer over it. Even if I have an AK or an M4, I can peer over it. That's why we like to have set smokes in CS, which we know with consistency will cover the thing entirely. One final smoke that you can use on mid is you can go into this corner. There is a dot on this wall. It's very easy to see when you're in game. You do a jump throw. This will smoke off short. I really like this smoke. There are other smokes you can find which are not as deep. The reason I really like this smoke is, from my experience, it's very, very, very extremely uncommon that a short player will push through the smoke because they're worried that you could be aggro. And also, it lets you, if you're not doing a short take, get into ladder and set up so that when the smoke fades, you can execute. You can also, as a top tip, crouch here, have someone jump on your head, jump on top of the box, and then with a coordination, say 3, 2, 1, and then your top box guy and your lower guy can peek at the same time, just as a top tip. So those are some smokes you can throw on mid Mirage. Moving over to B now. B typically is not as smoked, if that makes sense. You need a lot of smokes to take territory in mid. Obviously, you wouldn't throw all three. You would have your IGL needs to be calling a strat. So maybe the IGL thinks that A is weaker, or he wants a two-pronged attack on ramp. So he could send 2 people to ramp. Then he could throw this window smoke and throw the short smoke and then go up connector. And then all of a sudden, you're calling an actual strat. Alternatively, you could smoke connector and window, have 2 people go into B apartments, and then 3 people that run up short and attack short. These are called split strats. So if an IGL called a short split, you would have the bomb and one other person go apps. Ideally, the bomb goes the safer route. You would have connector and window smoked, and 3 people go up short. These are the most effective ways to take sites on Mirage, and why Mirage is super important. But you can also throw in proper executes, meaning execute basically just means to take the site with grenades, as I will show you a bit later. But B, as a role that you can play if your teammate's going B, you could designate yourself the support player on B. So how do I play support on B? Well, you can throw this smoke, which is you put your crosshair at the top of this corner. And this will block off the window. So if you have a CT that's AWPing, they are now nullified. And if they're a rifler, they are now nullified, and they have to push through here. So that's a good smoke that you can do. You come into this corner, and you jump. But also, if you think about and try to visualize the positioning, the person throwing this smoke will be at the back of the line. The rest of the players will be walking up towards B apps, ready to attack. And as they're about to attack, the IGL, who could be doing this or he could simply be calling for it, would call that you're about to push B, and then you can throw 2 flashes like this. Oh, not like the second one, excuse me. You can throw 2 flashes like that, and they will blind most positions on B. As you can see, will it be blind bench? I think so. Yeah, so there's a really great support role that you can play on B if you're the designated support player, or just because you have the nades around. Or as an IGL, it could be super beneficial to say, okay, you guys go B, I'm going to throw some grenades for you, and then when your team say, okay, we're pushing, then you throw the 2 flashes. So that's a very basic B strat you can do. Just one person can do it. Obviously, there are more advanced strats where you can smoke short and smoke sight, but I'm just going to keep it very simple in this video. Final thing I will show is an A execute strat. So for this strat, you want a CT smoke, a jungle smoke, and a stair smoke, and these are now easier than ever. So to smoke CT, put your crosshair in the middle of this pole, turn to the right, you'll see a beam and a wall. If you put your crosshair in between the beam and the wall, in the middle of the two, and do a jump throw, you will smoke CT. This smoke I think is super good because it blocks the opponent from going ticket. They still can go ticket, but they can't see with a rifle unless they jump or go on here. And then you can have a player from the same spot smoke stairs and jungle. Now, as I've seen, some people are still using the CSGO stair smoke. I advise you retire this smoke because it's actually kind of problematic. So I think this was the old CSGO smoke that you might be used to throwing. The problem with this smoke for stairs in CS2 is that the smoke feels sandwich, and that if a player is smoked here and they are a little more advanced, what they can do is they can jump into sandwich and hide in the smoke. And as you imagine, there's a lot of chaos. There's flashbangs going off. You're running up with your AK up ramp. There's mollies and stuff. And this person could just hide here. And then when the smoke fades, they'll be in this position and get 3 kills on you. And it's very dangerous. And there is now a much better smoke. So you can smoke jungle and stairs from the exact same position. So even if you're not smoking this round, what you can do is as you run past, Oh, I can't do it because of infinite ammo, but you could hit G and drop your smoke to your teammate here who can do both. So to smoke stairs and jungle, to smoke stairs, you find this cabling which is attached to the wall. Put your crosshair slightly to the left of it, and do a jump throw. And then to smoke, oh, that's the jungle smoke, excuse me. And then to smoke stairs, the top of the wall, you do a jump throw. This removes this issue and successfully smokes off jungle and stairs. As a top tip, as you're running out, it's a very good idea to put a molly here, so that if the CT decides he is going to peek the smoke, he immediately lands slap bang in a Molotov. Conversely, I strongly recommend against using HEs, because obviously you pop the HE, and if the CT's in there, he might actually get a kill on you, or he might kill one of your teammates. But the molly is a good idea. We call this position bench, and it's very popular for CTs to push through the smoke at bench, but they're very reluctant to do so from other areas. So these 3 smoke grenades will let you execute on A. Additionally, when you go A, it's a very good idea, as I said in my first ever video, to have one person go Palace. I personally really dislike playing multiple people Palace. I think only one person should ever play here. The reason being is that this is a very narrow choke point, so it's very easy for an opponent that's looking Palace, if you're multiple people, to just completely cancel you out. If there is a smoke Palace, it's almost a death sentence to go through, so you have to delay the round. Whereas if they smoke ramp, while it's still a good idea not to go through the smoke, as you can see, the choke point is a lot wider, so you could have one guy come out here and one guy come out here and a flash come over, whereas Palace you don't have that option. So on A takes, if you're an IGL, I recommend you only have one person go Palace, and the Palace guy can help and assist as your teammates come out ramp. And the Palace guy can molly underwood here. It's a very simple Molotov, and it will molly this under area so that if there is a guy playing there, the ramp guy can kill him. Remember, there'll be a smoke here, smoke here, smoke here, and the Palace guy throws this Molotov, which lets you clear this spot, and then you only have to worry about default and firebox. So we call this position firebox. Should be self-evident. We call this position default because this is the default spot. We call this position ninja. And we call this position CT, and we call this position ticket on the right side, left side is CT, this position we call sandwich, this position we call Tetris, this position we call bench. So there's an outline of some positions on A. But this is a really easy strat you can use. On lower tier games, this will get you a ton of round wins, because a lot of players are not able to deal with executes. So if you're calling, having a simple execute on A and a simple execute B that your teammates know how to do is super useful. But as an IGL, as I said, I recommend on T side in Mirage that your bread and butter, your main rounds, are mid control. And then once you get a feel for where the CTs are playing, you can run executes. So for example, if the CTs are super aggressive on mid and they're playing 3 people mid, as they should be, but at lower levels, of course, they won't be. If they are peeking 3 people mid, you know you can start running executes. And if they're not peeking 3 people mid, you know that you can get out into mid with your smokes and start working out, as the IGL, what the weak point is. Are they playing no aggressive player short, which just lets you take all this territory for free? Are they playing no one aggressive connector, which lets you attack connector at the same time you attack ramp and palace? Are they playing super aggressive on mid and they're just leaving their B guy out to hang and dry? That's your responsibility as an IGL to kind of work those things out. And if you do, you'll have a lot more success in your game. So hopefully that's helpful. The final thing I'll talk about is, okay, so what do I do if I'm the victim of an execute? What do I do if I'm the A player and they are throwing these smokes? Because obviously it's not super common at low level, but if they're coached by someone, if they watch one of my videos, all of like, I think they got like 20 views. If they're one of the few people that have seen these videos, what do I do to react to an execute like this? Well, that's a good question. Let's say that you're playing default position, so you're playing around here on A and you have a rifle. Well, the first thing to bear in mind is where is your rotator playing? So if the opponent is always playing A executes, you might want to com to your IGL that instead of playing your connector mid control at the start of the round, you're now having to help your site player. That's totally fine to do. As a site player, the anchor player I should say, you want to, the most important thing really is stay alive. And this applies pretty much all the time on anchor. So in Counter-Strike, at low levels, we have a tendency to try and take as many fights as we can, and take every fight that we can. But staying alive as an anchor is exceedingly important, because it lets your rotators get into a helpful position where they can flash or help you. Because if there's a smoke here, I can still throw a flash at my site guy, communicate that I'm throwing it, and then as these guys are trying to push my site guy, they're blind, my teammate won't be blind, and he can kill them. So that's the first thing. Try to stay alive. The second thing is, if they're still isolating you successfully and killing you, you need to adapt. Now you could adapt by playing a different position on site, but also you could adapt by playing behind the smoke and playing what we call a retake. And this is very doable on certain sites, on other sites not so much. So on a site, let's say that they've thrown those 3 smokes, you could be playing CT. And if they throw a bad smoke like this, you could even take a fight if you had an AWP. But if they throwed a good smoke like I showed you how to do, and this is blocked, you can instead just wait. And as you're waiting, you want to communicate that you're waiting. Your CTs want to, your teammates rather want to clear mid, make sure that there's not a backstab coming in. And then once you're all ready to go, you can then attack the site together and use grenades to flush out positions, use your smoke on Palace, and stuff like that. So there's the second option. First option is, or first thing to bear in mind is try and stay alive. Second option is, if you're still getting exploited, play a retake position. The third option is communicate to the IGL and delegate more people to helping you maintain the site. If you're an IGL and you're on CT side and you feel like your teammate's having a real tough time of it, without being patronizing or a dick, you can help your teammate. You can literally go to that site and throw grenades for them and try to get them in the game by making them feel a lot more comfortable. A lot of the time, if you're feeling super uncomfortable on a site, it's because you don't have confidence that your teammates are doing enough to help you. So yeah, there's some stuff you can do if you are attacking by a execute. The final point I will cover is utility use. So at a beginner level, we tend to use grenades super early. An example of this is mid on Inferno. Typically on mid and Inferno, if you think about it from a CT perspective, you throw your grenade super early. This isn't always useful. If you're a B player and you feel like they're never going B, throwing this smoke super early every round is perhaps not the best thing. So holding your smoke has a big advantage. The advantage is that if we, as we were talking about, if your A player was getting destroyed by the execute and they're like, I'm going to play a retake position, if you keep your smoke and you have it late round, you can throw it to block off something like Palace. Now this is a bit higher level, but just something to bear in mind that you don't necessarily want to be using your smokes at the start of the round every round. Now you definitely do if you feel like they're pushing super fast every round, like if you're the B player and they're doing B rush after B rush, then you do want to use your smoke early, right? So you can buy time for your rotator. But if you get the feeling that they're not pushing B a lot, then you can hold your smoke and wait for the A retake and use it to assist one of your teammates. Just some final grenades that you can do on CT side that I recommend you do, beginner grenades, is if you're the connector player, so you're coming from CT to go connector, I recommend on cross you always Molotov this every round, and you can throw this smoke if you're an AWPer especially. This is actually not the best. I probably should have thrown it straight to the left. I'll show you what I mean. You can throw this flash off middle if you're an AWP, and you can peek with it because it won't blind you, so you can be peeking here. It won't blind you. I'll just show you how to throw this smoke properly. I think I threw it too highly. Yeah, there you go. So you can throw this smoke, and then you can peek over if you have an AWP. This is a super useful smoke. If you're con and you feel like there's multiple people killing you every round. And there's a flash here that you can throw. This is the final like beginner grenade that I'll throw you. But if you throw this flash, cool that you're throwing it. You can blind further back players, like this. Remember to comm when you're throwing grenades. You can say I'm throwing my flash, and then your teammate can peek. So you go. Some very basic stuff on Mirage, and some things to bear in mind. Hopefully that's useful.